Rahim here with MJP, Michelle Joy Phelps, stuck with you in the boxing world once again. Quarantine time is still quarantine timing. I can't believe we're still here doing the same things that we've been doing for the past 2 months, but here we are, so we might as well get used to it. And as would always be the case with people stuck in the house, Michelle, I think you and I have comported ourselves quite well. I look back over the past couple of months, I didn't say anything stupid. I think you survived the virus. I know you don't think you did, but I think you're a survivor. And boxers seem to have an incredible propensity for saying and posting stupid things. This week's, I think, top shelf crazy comment is Devin Haney. Devin Haney definitely made the biggest boxing news, I think, of the week. So I want to get this right so I can do the kid justice. And quoting exactly what he said. Because when I first saw it, I have to admit, I thought this was like somebody putting out, those fake tweets or those memes that you see and just trying to make fun of somebody's mind state or get a reaction to something people really didn't say. But I had to go check. This is an actual quote, and believe it or not, this isn't Bernard Hopkins. So obviously Devin Haney and Lomachenko have had a back and forth on Twitter for a while. All the guys at that weight have been getting at each other for some time. So that's nothing new. That wouldn't even be news. It wouldn't even make my radar raise. How really people are still chatting shit. Shocking. But this one, Devin Haney replying to Vasily Lomachenko, I will never lose to a white boy in my life. I don't care what nobody got to say. I can't no white boy beat me on any day of the week. Fight a white boy 10 times, I'm going to beat him 10 times. Okay. Now, those old boxing heads, or even people who took my advice a couple years back and have gone through the archives of some of the great fights, and you will stumble upon some of the great press conferences. Remember Bernard Hopkins making this same type of claim. I'm not saying a white boy can beat you, or if he does, he beats you because he's a white boy, or if you win, you beat him because you're a black guy. What I am saying is you don't want to be calling out all white boys at the same time.
I find it, when I first read it, I'm like you. I'm like, huh? And, I mean, you know me, Rahim. I hate any time race is the topic. I hate it. Like, it just boils my blood, Like, I just think it has nothing to do with it. If, you have to, everything's circumstantial, isn't it? How someone was raised, what environment they were in. I mean, for crying out loud, I don't know what half them Russians are doing, but you see videos of them wrestling bears and eating all types of meats and stuff. So I don't know what how they are raised, but I think the environment has everything to do with how someone is as a fighter. Also, their training methods and how dedicated they are to the sport. So, I mean, when you look at somebody like Vasily Lomachenko, and you can agree with me on this, like he's different. He's different. His training methods are different. Him and Usyk do things I have never, ever, ever seen fighters do. So, I don't know. I can't co-sign on that tweet just because I don't like when people bring up race, but you can't judge somebody based on their skin color as to how good or not good they are as a fighter. You can't.
I don't have a problem with the racism of it all. That's part and parcel of the boxing world and history. Not that everybody's racist before you guys go nuts, but boxing does have cultural roots, geographic roots. Like the Mexicans come in with the waving the Mexican flag, say they all love the exact same song. I don't understand that part, but I like the song too, so I get it. They all seem to come into the same song. When Floyd's trying to wind him up, he does the ring walk with the sombrero on. And sometimes it crosses the line. I get
wrong with somebody representing the country that they come from, but to generalize, he's not saying, no Russian's gonna beat me. He said no white man is gonna beat me. So
and that's where I have the problem. It's like you don't want to be calling out all white boys at the same time. It's like if you're going to play the Super Bowl, you don't want to be like, no DB can stop me, because then every DB is going to put that up in his locker, and his whole game is going to be about stopping you. Just like you're prideful and whatever it is about you that you think, hey, no, I'm from Detroit, or I'm from New York, and we're Brooklyn, and nobody can beat Brooklyn Fighters and all that shit. We've been hearing that from the beginning of time. But if you make a race thing and you say nobody in this race can beat you, you just up everybody in that race's game by 2 times. They're going to train harder for you. They're going to see that as like their racial pride on the line. Can you imagine if Lomachenko was like, yo, I know, I'm going to go to 140. I'm going to go to 140. But you know what? No colored guy's going to beat me. I don't care.
It also alienates an audience, doesn't it? Because people who are fans of yours, and then they say something about, your race, your ethnicity, then it kind of triggers them a little bit. Even if he didn't intend to, which I don't believe he was intending to do that, but I think that it hurts him. It hurts his image. It hurts, people who want to follow him, because they're going to always go back to that comment and go, oh, he's racist. And that's how people are going to perceive it. It does not matter. If I went off and said something about one particular race, I would be perceived as racist.
And to be fair, like, black people will get more leeway on this. Like, a white boy could not say, no black boy's going to beat me. No, no black fight. No, you're going to say black boy. You'd be like, no black fight can ever beat me. We'd be having a different conversation. He'd definitely be racist. This is unacceptable. Let's find the guy. Like, we'd be going nuts. But you got to remember, Haney comes from the Mayweather school. And not that Mayweather trained him, but you can see in the way he does his business and the way he presents himself that he is definitely the next generation after Floyd that grew up like idolizing the Mayweather style. Mayweather would say he didn't, but would say something like that. Like I said, with him doing the ring walk with the sombrero, being the bad guy or the villain or the one who says the thing that you're not supposed to say does sell tickets.
But we are in a different era right now. We're in an era of sensitivity. Okay?
We are racial distancing, Michelle.
When we go back to the Mike Tyson days, and half the shit he said is very controversial if someone were to say it today. It's a different time. Unfortunately, whether you meant it a certain way or not, people are going to perceive it that way. So,
all right. Well, it does beg the question, though. Does anybody beat Devin Haney? Yeah, because he's getting a lot of stick, obviously, for this comment, but he's also getting a lot of stick for not having, and it's not his fault, but not having won that WBC title in the traditional fashion. Right. There was a vacated title. You can just read out. It was a vacated title, and he got blessed with it because the guy holding the title, Lomachenko, was elevated to franchise champion or another made-up thing that the WBC does. And so he kind of got screwed out of his opportunity to win that title in the ring as a champion should.
And to be fair, he did. He did want to. He had been calling out, Lomachenko. So that, needs to be clarified. It's not like, he hadn't tried prior to that happening.
Now, I mentioned Floyd, and I think that Devin was really modeling himself after Floyd in a major way. And it sounds like Floyd has chimed in. I'm sure he watches the show. He's probably at home in the mansion, got his people around him.
Haney tweeted, he said, I'm not racist and I never will be a racist. I'm chasing greatness. #
I'm not a racist. I never will be a racist. I'm chasing greatness. # undefeated. I rest my case. I mean, that could have come out of Floyd's diary.
I literally don't believe that he's racist, but you can see where the tweet has a undertone to it that gives someone enough room to make their own opinion about it.
It's a wildly racist comment, but you don't have to have been a racist to make it. And yes, I would say that if it was a white guy too, although nobody would listen to me. In fact, they'd be calling me a sellout if I did that, because they just don't have the room based on history to be able to even tread even anywhere close to that line. But I think like Haney's trying to stir the pot. He's trying to force the fight. Like, okay, money won't do it. We got these broadcast issues. Who's in what camp? Where are we supposed to fight? Clearly, Lomachenko's happy to take that so-called elevated franchise status. So he's trying to get at him any way he could. I don't think that the white boy thing is really going to work on Lomachenko. He probably have been better off. He had said, like, no Ukrainian is going to beat me. That would probably get under his skin a lot quicker than the white boy thing. And he is calling down the thunder. Like, I'm not picking a winner.
It's no secret Devin can't stand, Lomachenko. Anytime you do an interview with him, he'll go off for like 3-4 minutes straight before he asks the next question, because he has a lot to say about that. He feels a certain way about Lomachenko, not giving him any credit, not giving him the time, basically saying you need to do more to get the fight. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that was his shot at greatness. He was denied an opportunity to be great. And, every day, every month, every unfortunate year that will go by that he hasn't had that opportunity, Lomachenko will get older. What if Teofimo Lopez goes in there and handles his business? If I was Devin Haney, I would be sick to my stomach if I had to watch Teofimo Lopez beat Lomachenko. All I'd be thinking is, man, I could have did that. That's my moment of glory. That's my moment to shine. No matter what Joshua says, when he saw Tyson Fury beat Deontay Wilder, and that 7th round towel comes flying over the top rope, he was sick. He was sick. He might have been sick for the wrong reasons, but I know in his heart he believes wholeheartedly he could beat Deontay Wilder. And the fact that they left over $100 million on the table, that they couldn't come to terms with 10% in the differential, and he could have been the guy to be, carried in on a chariot to crazy. You'll never get that chance again. Even if he were to dust Deontay in the first round, if they were eventually meet, it would never be like the first guy to beat him. And that's how fighters think. And they'll say or do anything to get that moment before the other guy gets the moment.
Well, Rahim, since we're on that topic right now, I'm going to segue on over to it. We got, some words were exchanged, or not exchanged, I'm sorry, words were said
No.
From Deontay that had a lot of talking on social media, where, he talked about how he had surgery, how he wasn't himself. Anyone who knows him knows that was not Deontay Wilder that night. And then also said he doesn't consider Tyson Fury to be the champion because they still have to fight one more time. Do you feel that he has the right to say that?
He has the right to...
If the roles were reversed, would he be offended by that comment by Tyson Fury?
He has the right to say, that wasn't me in the ring.
Yes.
He will be criticized for that, as he's been criticized for every single other explanation, he would say, excuse, most would say, as to why you lost. That doesn't ring well in boxing. It never has. No matter how big a fighter you are, how avid your fan base is, when you lose, and convincingly so, most fans, a lion's share of fans, will respect you if you take that L, credit the guy that beat you, give him the pound or the hug in the ring, and be like, I'm coming back stronger next time. I live to fight another day. Kudos to you. You're champion until I get another shot. I'll be champion again.
That's what I was saying. I was saying he could still believe, you know what, I wasn't myself tonight. I could be better. It's not what you say, it's how you say it half the time, right?
Yeah,
like,
in this case, it's what you say.
Hold on. So what I was saying was, I believe that had he, whether it had been on the night, few nights later, a week later, whatever, had he said, look, I wasn't proud of my performance. I know that I'm better than that. I know I wasn't myself that night, but he won fair and square, but he's going to keep my belt, babysit it for a bit, because I'm going to be back to take that shit. Now, had he said something like that, everybody would have been like, cool, he's got confidence. He's going to come back. We have something to look forward to. You know what I'm saying? But there's a way of still sort of throwing the guy a bone, but also still having confidence in yourself that I am getting my title back.
So I have had this conversation with a few people since it came about, because the appalling part is I don't see Tyson Fury as champion, which is saying you don't respect him as champion. And that, to me, is where you cross the line between, like, yo, whatever you need to say to yourself to put your own head place, like, together. I understand fighters will have to say things to themselves that don't make any sense, that really for the rest of us would be like, you're delusional. To be a fighter, especially an elite fighter, a world champion, I think you have to be delusional. You have to have delusions of grandeur, and you have to think that you're invincible, which nobody actually is. But once that chink in your armor is exposed, that crack at invincibility can be seen by everybody, you have to somewhere in your mind get back to the place where you believe I can't be beaten. And the mistake that some fighters make is to believe I never was beaten. And that, for him, is clearly going to be a huge hurdle, because now I think, if I'm counting correctly, this is like the third kind of absurd excuse or explanation as to why he lost, rather than, hey, this guy was just better on the night, I didn't have the right game plan, he beat me, and I do have another fight, thank God, already got contracted, so I'll show you what I can really do. When you say a guy didn't win or isn't champion yet, and I'll use Roy Jones. Roy Jones said it quite well, at least. Like, he's like, yo, you fought this guy 2 times. He stopped you in the 7th round of the second fight. Out of 19 rounds, the guy probably won between 15 and 14 of those 19 rounds. How the fuck are you going to say he's not champion? Of course he is. Give the man his respect. This is the of course he is the end of Roy Jones and the beginning of me. Give the man his respect so that if and when you beat him in the 3rd fight, you can get your respect. If he's not champion now, then you won't be champion when you beat him. Then nobody's champion. Like, how do you become champion?
That's the argument a lot of people are making right now, is just what you said. If you don't believe him to be the champion, now, then, a lot of people believed that Tyson won the first fight. So does that mean that you were ever champion after that point? Because he was still champion, technically.
Right.
So,
what about the rematch between Klitschko and Fury? That never happened. So that's, you know what? I gotta tell you, Michelle, ironically, I might be changing my mind. I think I just changed my mind. Fury says he's the lineal champion because he's never been beat. Nobody beat him. He beat the man who beat the man who beat the man. The Klitschko rematch never materialized, so he's still champion? Well, I guess if that's true, then somehow maybe Wilder's still champion too, because there's another fight on the board that hasn't been fought. I don't know. Both of those theories are equally absurd to me. You lost your belt one way or the other, and the people who are now wearing the belt are legitimate champions.
To be honest with you, in any case, this is not just this case, but in any case, when we've seen someone not give the other credit, it just comes off sour, doesn't it? And it's like, nobody wants to hear that. Let's just own it and let's move on. Let's go. Let's go to the 3rd fight. Let's see what happens in the 3rd fight. it's just, there's nothing wrong with just saying, all right, look, this person was the better man on that night. But again, that's just me. I always like it when you see good sportsmanship at the end of a fight. You know, it's.
Let's put it to the fans. These 2 questions. We'll put it to the fans, like they can chime in and let us know. First of all, Devin Haney, is that comment just flatly racist? Or
Here, you need to ask the question, if you're a white boy, were you offended by that tweet?
better? That's better. That's better. If you're a white boy, are you offended by that tweet? Or are you offended by us continuously calling you a white boy? And is there anybody out there that thinks that Tyson Fury is not actually champion? Is anybody buying into either one of these guys, like, kind of wild premise about maintaining their championships after they've clearly lost them? Is Tyson Fury still the man until somebody beats him? Should he never be considered not having been champion? And because there's a 3rd fight on the books, does Wilder still have a claim to the WBC heavyweight title until the 3rd fight's over? I'd be interested to see if there's anybody out there that's actually weighing in on the side of those fighters and that logic.
But they're, you know, like oh, here's a question. Have you heard of Lucas Body, 135 pounds, lightweight champ, 9090?
Okay, everybody with 9 fights and no losses is a future champion. I'm certain that you believe that, what was his name?
It is Brandonian 33. Oh, you're talking about.
No, yeah. Let me tell you guys something. This is what I love about boxing. There's never been a day in my life that I've entered a gym just to train myself, much less go to a media workout, or a fight and be walking through the crowd and not been stopped by somebody's like, yo, have you heard of my boy? You got to interview this dude. He's 3-0, 3 knockouts, yo. He's from deep, real Detroit, son. Like, you don't even know about cuz. How are you a boxing journalist, dog? We don't know because he hasn't done shit yet. This doesn't mean we're hating on him. It doesn't mean that he won't one day beat Roy Jones. At one point in Roy Jones' career, he was 3-0. And I haven't looked at the record, but I'm going to say with 3 knockouts. But I didn't interview him then either. It's like, give him a chance.
I'm confused because I didn't hear anything that was just asked. So was it a question? Clearly there was a question.
I can't restate the question because it's silly. Like, I just gave a hypothetical. It was just another guy that caught me walking through the crowd, was like, yo, my boy is 9-0, 9 knockouts, future champion, dog. Have you heard of him? Though? Now, what's his name again? Oh, see, you're not even a real boxing journalist. You don't even know about my boy. He's fighting in clubs. In like Tupelo, Mississippi. How am I to know this? I'm not hating on your boy. I hope that your boy becomes world champion. And one day, you'll pull this from YouTube and be like, look at Radio Rahim hating on the next Roy Jones. And then, you know what? He'll probably make me stand outside his locker room for 90 minutes after the fight so I can talk to him for 4 fucking minutes about a knockout. So everything comes full circle, dog.
Okay. Surely we got another question, no?
Do we?
Boxers wanting to take less money, like what happens and how boxing run after the pandemic. So Joshua, announced that he would fight. So Joshua has announced through DAZN that he would fight for less behind closed doors, and actually his quote is, economically, I'm taking a big hit like the rest of the world, like the farm workers in California. Joshua said in an interview with DAZN's Prince Mannix.
Yeah, I did think that was an interesting quote. You know this story, Michelle. Joshua was saying that he'd take less money to fight behind closed doors. They estimated maybe an $8 million loss if there's no audience. And he was saying like he'd be happy to do that just to get back to fighting. That's the thrust of his comment.
I never heard that.
Well, I said right when this thing started, and when the Saunders thing happened, and maybe Saunders loses his opportunity to Canelo, and people are like giving Canelo stick, like, oh, if he doesn't take the Saunders fight, he's ducking him. Yo, when this thing breaks, this shut-in, stay-home lockdown, everybody's got a right to try to get their money. And if you can get $8 million less, but to be fair, Joshua's not starving. If he's losing $8 million, he's still going to make upwards of 20. Yeah. I'd rather take upwards of 20 minus 8 than all of nothing and make us wait. Oh shit! You see what I did there? That does a little Roy Jones in myself. That's unnatural. You can't criticize a guy for wanting to get his money, and I respect Joshua for being willing to take less if he could give us a fight and have one himself, which is what he wants to do, get back in the ring. Who wouldn't want to see a live boxing match right now? And could you imagine if, okay, Eddie Hearn was like, we got the arena, nobody can come, just the press and your family, but yeah, you got to take an $8 million pay cut. And Joshua was like, nah, I'll wait. We'd eviscerate him. Good.
Are you okay with this, Rahim, to you? Like, are you all right with the idea of them possibly having these events, but media not being present? Because I know that the Bob Arum had mentioned that there wouldn't be media at these events.
Okay, first of all, stop it. You have to have media at the event, not because I want to go, but because I have an obligation to observe. I mean, we can't leave what happens in the venue entirely up to the promoter and the requisite officials in the building. Like, there has to be an unbiased observer that knows what should be happening, that can report on what's actually happening and take accounts of what's happened once it has to give to the public for consumption. This is a combat sport. I wouldn't be in favor of that in a golf tournament, but where guys are beating each other and there's all kinds of things that can go wrong, or ways guys can cheat, or accounts that need to be firsthand. You have to have a press. You just can't do this without an impartial observer.
You got to have somebody who's willing to call out, a judge here and there, if you know what I'm saying, or. I mean, yeah, I get it. You got to have multiple opinions there, because you can sit two people down and they'll completely see the fight differently. So, plus, accountability for what can happen without cameras.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's all kinds of, what if there's a glitch in the broadcast and the fight is going on and television goes down? Like, you have to have an impartial witness. The press has a job. It's to keep everybody honest.
I see it as like I'm 50-50 about it, because on one hand I completely understand what you're saying. On the other hand, I feel like we need something to look forward to at this point. However, my fear is that they'll get too comfortable with doing this, that it'll extend well into 2021, where we're still not there. We're still not involved, because they found a sort of system that works without having audiences and without having press around, and they just want to kind of get through it. That's my fear, is that, well, okay, if we do that, how long are you guys going to be okay with doing that? I mean, I understand that it's going to determine off of the state and the country and so forth, but if we are okay to go back to normal, like, will they continue to sort of run this system longer than need be? That's a guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that's a concern that I do have.
It's a Trojan horse. The promoter only wants the press there to promote the fight. Once the fight's on, we're a nuisance. We're like the guys, like you said, who will call things out in the moment.
But they'll also have, I'm sure, video interviews and so forth. But will fans really be into that? Will they be okay with the no engagement? Like, and also, who will be entitled to interviews and who won't be entitled to interviews is a question I have. Because, we out there fighting each other to get those interviews. So if we're not granted the, quote, Zoom interview, then we never get to interview anybody anymore. Right. So there's a lot of things, at least from our perspective for what we do for a living, those are my concerns.
Yeah, and just we're gonna move on and get a couple more questions before we close. But to your point, Michelle, and this is important, we shouldn't be fighting each other for interviews. There's a class of boxing journalists that is pretty prominent. Everybody knows who they are, and so do the promoters, so do the PR people, and they're pitting us against each other when really the fight is with them. The fight is with us seeking out the truth, asking the tough questions, getting the stories reported that should be in the public sphere, and them having to deal with criticism leveled at them either for the way the promotion is being handled, how the fighter is training or not training, and then the fighter being held accountable after the fight for how he's performed. That's our job. And the PR people, it's their job to make the fight and the fighter look the best, and the promoter's job to come off appearing to have done his job better than anybody else and checked all the boxes and crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's. And if anyone's going to call them out on not having done that, it'll be us. So instead of being accountable themselves and giving the proper press credentialed access to the event and the fighters and themselves, they try to pit us against each other like it's a bottleneck. And that's not true, never has been true, and this is what I think is behind some kind of bullshit, we're not going to have the press there for safety reasons type of agenda. It's unacceptable.
Antibody test. Like, can I come with the antibody test and say,
yeah,
hey, look,
right.
I'm okay?
Because if we're gonna start testing everybody in boxing, I don't know the press are the people we should start with. But one more from the gallery.
But speaking of the press, one less person are going to be pitted against it. Not to really contract after new. There are 92 act. Rahim was Paul versus KSI still the most.
Was Paul versus KSI still the most important night in boxing win? What?
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know what the question is.
Was KSI versus Logan Paul, he said still, I'm not sure why he said still, but he's asking if that was the most important night in boxing. Maybe he's trying to take a jab at me. Maybe he's just making a general question, but the most important night of boxing, certainly not. Of course, we could debate in KSI and Logan Paul.
No, I know. I'm asking I'm saying, does he mean that like the most important night for like YouTubers?
Right. So I think he might be getting at me because I was the first to state how important that fight was to boxing, and a lot of people took exception to that as saying that it's a circus and all this stuff, which you can have that opinion, but what your short-sighted opinion might betray is that it's the most important night to reach another generation of boxing fans. And it was the most important night for even a network or a new platform like DAZN to reach out to new subscribers who would otherwise never bother to turn on a fight, much less pay for a night of a fight card. And so to bring boxing to the awareness of a younger audience, a new audience, a next generation, even if they're not career fighters or traditional boxers, the whole card was full of traditional boxers and world champions. And guess what? The main event delivered. I don't have a problem, again, with those guys being in the main event. And yes, it was a very important night for boxing because it brought boxing into more homes than it would otherwise have been had that fight not taken place. It brought boxing to the awareness of a new generation that wasn't paying no attention to boxing. So in that regard, yes, there have been many more important nights in boxing in the annals of history. but this was one of them in the current and modern era for sure. Yeah, I mean,
That was definitely a you question.
what?
You have some feedback on the question that you posed about was Devin Haney's being a right racist.
Okay.
Okay, so a lot of them are saying not at all racist, but my favorite answer
Please
is
speak up and loud.
I'm not offended, but I should technically have the right to be. But a lot of the other answers are not at all racist.
Okay, see that? See, I love boxing people. I love boxing people. That is the correct answer.
Yeah.
I mean, not at all racist, but I do like the spirit of that. Yo, it's shit talking. It's shit talking. And again, I think it was ineffective, and that the guy you're trying to get at is far more protective about his Ukrainian heritage, I think, than the color of his skin. It's a little dated. It's like, are you talking shit in the 80s? Like, what are we doing? What do you think, Michelle? Does that surprise you that it sounds like people didn't take it that way?
No, again, like I was saying, it was just it's not always what you say, it's how you say it, and I think that most people know that that's what fighters do. They're going to find ways to take digs and talk crap and one up the other. But I think the problem today overall is the sensitivity of social media. No matter what you say, I mean, I could literally tweet about eating a burger tonight, and I will get someone who will call me out by saying, how dare you eat animals? Do you get what I'm saying? It does not matter what you say. You're always going to be 50% correct and 50% incorrect. Does not matter. So it's definitely going to depend on how someone perceives it, but nonetheless, you're opening yourself up to be criticized, to be called, quote unquote, racist.
Michelle, you are once again the kindest voice in the room. You want to protect everybody, and let's just be a little more sensitive to each other. I think that, let's be less sensitive. Let's be less sensitive. Say what you have to say. I can't stop reading the comments. Sometimes I cry myself to sleep. That's just part of the job. Just part of the job. And then every now and then somebody thinks like, I'm the best broadcaster to ever pick up a mic. You're wrong too, but I tend to believe you. So, all I'm saying is, unless someone has really crossed the line, like going way beyond it, and we've all got to kind of collectively be like, yo, my man, you gotta step back over on this side of the line. That happens. I'm not saying that there's no line, but there's a line, and I think it's a little too close to our noses. Like let's give everybody the benefit of the doubt. Devin Haney's not a racist. He was just trying to stir the pot, get himself a shot. I get that. And hopefully he'll recognize that, these tactics probably aren't as effective as they once were, and find a new way to get at it. And if anybody, and I hope you don't mind me doing this, Michelle, you can email or DM Michelle if you're having a hard time. Any time of the day or night, she's receptive to it. She's happy to counsel you and make you feel better, and I will block you. So we will be back in a week. Hopefully there'll be more boxing news. People,
there's not much to go off of these days. A lot of it's just like little shit talk, but there's not much to talk about. So bear with us as we try to give you guys content and give you whatever little nugget of news we get. We're going to be feeding it right to you.
and if nobody hits anybody in a boxing ring sometime soon, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to start screaming World Star in these streets and just film them myself. So be ready for that. You are still stuck with us. It is a pleasure to be stuck with all of you. Michelle Joy Phelps, as always, hanging out with Radio Rahim, behind the gloves, SecondsOut AI, all the team back there at SecondsOut in London, pull this together. We will see you guys again, and I'm going to go have myself a whiskey.
Yeah.
Bye, fans!